Merry Christmas, everybody. Here we are, December 24th, 2025. We're back for another edition of Mathew's monthly housing market minutes. Never gets easier. I've said it before. I'll probably say it again. Today's video, this month's video, is twofold. Number one, to wish you and yours a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Pray that you're able to accomplish all of the goals that you set for yourself in 2026 and for many years to come. And to encourage you that, or I challenge you rather, to not wait until January 1st to start. A revolution around the sun should not be the metric in which we use to decide when we want to change our lives. I'll leave you with that. The second purpose for this month's video is to give some perspective. There's a lot of different narratives right now in the economy, both macro and micro. And, opinions or narratives are a lot like armpits. Everybody has them. Some stink more than others. However, what we're going to discuss today, as far as perspective is concerned, is for all of those people, homeowners, buyers, whatever you may be, that feel like they want to wait for things to get better. Now, I'm going to preface this perspective with there is going to be a demographic of people who purchased a property within the past 2 to 3 years, and they're in a bad situation. Anybody that purchased a property, at least in the Tampa Bay area, within the past 2 to 3 years, there is a high probability that either you owe more than it's worth, or you're not going to be able to break even based on what you sold it for, because our market has been correcting for 3 years now. However, some of the information that we're going to go over may cause you to be pleasantly surprised. Now, preface aside, the perspective for everyone else is, I would challenge the narrative of we're waiting for things to get better if you've lived in the property for more than 5 years. And the reason I'm going to challenge that narrative is the only 3 things that ever matter in real estate are why you're doing it, when you need to do it by, and what happens if you don't. If your reasons for doing it are not important enough, there's never a good time to sell. Don't do it. Just wait. However, if we're waiting for greener pastures and you've owned the home for more than 5 years, I would be inclined, even as a consumer myself, I own a lot of rental property. I own a lot of property in general. I would challenge waiting for greener pastures, the thought of waiting for greener pastures or a better market if I've owned it for more than 5 to 6 years, because we hit the lottery if we've owned a property for that long, and I'll show you why. So let's get going, because I have a family event to get to in 5 minutes. As you can see, you guys are my priority. All right, so here's our perspective. It'll make sense in a second. Give me a second to get everything rolling on my end. So what we're looking at here are the market statistics for the last 6 years in the Tampa Bay area. The only county I took out of, because I service 8 counties, the only county I removed is DeSoto. The reason I removed DeSoto is because there are so few sales there by comparison that it tends to skew the data in a bad way. So I removed DeSoto. This is all of the other 7 counties that we service. What I'm going to draw attention to is this. The market, the COVID market, started right here. You'll see that homes for sale started to decline, and they hit kind of rock bottom around April of 2022 right here. So between December and April of 2022, that was the absolute peak of the market. From there, this is where the Fed raised rates, and then inventory took off into the stratosphere. We're going to look at the days on market. Again, here's your COVID market. Homes were selling for 100% of list price on average, and in less than 20 days in most cases. We've seen the average list price to sales price drop pretty dramatically. Back here, they were averaging 100%. Now they're only averaging 90% of list price on average. But a properly priced home can sell above list price regardless of what the market is doing. Now, This is the perspective, my friends, and please take heed of this. Here's the peak of the market, April of 2022. Now, what you'll notice, the average list price was way up here, but the average sales price was way down here. This tells me that a lot of people were grossly overpricing their properties. Well-trained monkeys could sell real estate, and they were. Realtors were telling people what they wanted to hear to get a listing. And then they would just sit on the market and not sell, but most of them did. But the average sales price was still around $470. However, values didn't really start to correct ubiquitously until about 2023, 2024. When a market starts correcting, doesn't do so overnight. The analogy I like to use is if you have a fever. A fever is not what's wrong with you. A fever is a symptom of what's wrong with you. In the housing market, days on market are the fever. That's a symptom. Properties sitting on the market for longer tell us something's wrong. Typically, what you can link it back to is there's more homes available and sales are down. Well, yeah, more homes are available. This light green line indicates the homes available. But then when you go back to the average list price versus sales price, the perspective that I'm positing in this video is this. If you owned a home any time, even into 2022. Now, if you bought it in 2022, as I said, if you look here, the average sales price, so the average value is $478. The average value right now is $452. So as I said, if you bought in the past 3 years, so linking you back to 2022, there is a high probability your home is not worth what you bought it for. No questions. The trend is your friend. The statistics, the facts do not lie. However, if you bought it and if you've owned your home prior to April of 2022, my friend, you are in a beautiful situation. Beautiful. Why, you ask? The average sold price 6 years ago, so same quarter now to 6 years ago, your home on average is worth 59.2% more than it was when you bought it, if you bought it 6 years ago. Now, if you've owned it since the bottom of the housing market crash, the Great Recession, if you've owned it since rock bottom of 2009, you are in very rare air because your home is easily worth hundreds of percent more than it was worth when you bought it. So the perspective is this, and I'm going to truncate this video today. I would highly encourage those that are sitting here. Let me unshare this for a second. I would highly encourage those that are sitting on the sidelines, waiting for a better market, waiting for rates to go down because they want to get more money for their home. I would challenge that if they've owned it for more than 5 years. If you bought it from 2022 to now, yeah, you may have to wait unless you're willing to write a check to sell your home. If the only reason, though, you're waiting is to sell for more money and you've owned it for longer than that, you already won the lottery. Your home, if you've owned it since 2019, it's worth 50% more than it was then. And here's the really cool thing that a lot of people don't pay attention to. If you're going to sell your home and you're going to buy back in, so meaning you want to sell to buy, the distance between what you want and what you have will always be the same. So if the value of your home goes up, meaning you're going to wait for the value of your home to go up, the home you're going to buy, the home you're going to purchase when you sell, its value is going to be more as well. There's not going to be a point in time when you're going to make out better. And if you're waiting for rates to go down because you want borrowing money to be less expensive, traditionally speaking, when rates go down, so the value of homes go up as well, as long as inventory is in a conducive place to do so. So what's the benefit in getting a lesser rate if you have to pay significantly more money for the home? But it's all irrelevant if you're selling and buying. Now, if you've got an extra property you want to offload, I encourage you, keep it until the market goes up. If you don't need to sell it, keep it, because a broken clock is right twice a day. Eventually, you will get whatever you want. It's just a question of how long it takes to get there. Hopefully, this explanation helps. And this is meant to be encouraging. Merry Christmas. If you've owned your home for over 3 years, it's the best gift you could have given yourself, because it is. There's not many assets that I've owned in my life that are worth over 50% more in such a short period of time. However, there is a lot of economic pain right now for those, bear with me, there's a lot of economic pain right now for those that have bought in the last 3 years, and it's going to continue that way, at least for now. Last thing we're going to look at, more perspective. Here's the market before COVID. We had 3 months of inventory. Anything less than 5 months of inventory is a seller's market, and prices go up. Right now, we have a buyer's market. We still have too much inventory, much more than we did prior to COVID. This number, the months of inventory, needs to get below 5 months of inventory. And here's the thing. Come back to share me. Here's the thing. Remember what I said earlier, values don't go up overnight. Markets don't shift overnight. So 1 month below 5 months of inventory doesn't mean we're in a seller's market and values are going up. Just like values don't go down overnight, they don't go up overnight. It will need to stay that way for anywhere between 6 to 18 months before sellers self-discover that, or buyers and sellers self-discover there's change in the market. It's not overnight. Hopefully this helps. And I pray that it creates a silver lining for all those that have been discouraged by the housing market over the past couple years. There is a lot of good news to be had if you've owned your home for more than 3 years. If you've bought within the past 3 years, I'm not going to apologize. However, I do empathize because a lot of us ended up in that same boat back in 04 to 09. And history doesn't always repeat itself. It often rhymes, though. So as long as we're willing to be patient, and we can be patient, and we aren't forced to sell at a loss, our home will pay us dividends in the long run. Keep in mind, though, your home, the home you live in, is not an asset. It's a liability. It costs you money to live there. It's not an asset until you sell it, but then you don't have a place to live. So it's just, again, a little bit more perspective on how we look at our properties. They are not piggy banks. We should not treat them as such. So I hope you guys have a very Merry Christmas. I hope that this helps to some degree. Call me with your questions. My phone is always open, or my door is always open. My phone is always open. My door is always open. My phone is always on. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. We'll see you.